It was one of those crisp October mornings. The kind where the fog lifts off the water like steam from a fresh cup of coffee. And I'm out on my dock. Boots creaking on the old cedar planks my grandpa laid down himself back in '82. Just me. The loons. And a black coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Then, out of nowhere, four charter buses come roaring up my gravel road like a convoy of entitled tourists. Kicking up dust. Unloading maybe 60 people in designer athleisure and boat shoes. Coolers clanking. Grills smoking. Fishing rods swinging like this is some all-inclusive resort and not my private lakefront. And there she is. Strutting down the dock in $500 heels that sink straight into the mud. HOA President Karen Whitmore. Arms wide like she's hosting the Oscars. Yelling. Jake. You can't keep the lake to yourself. This is community property. My blood went from zero to boil in about 2 seconds. Because for the last 18 months, this woman has been trying to steal my family's land with fake surveys. Bully lawyers. And a smile sharp enough to cut glass. But she forgot one thing. I am a retired fire captain who spent 25 years reading blueprints and saving lives. And in retirement, I read property deeds like other guys read sports pages. What happened next? I took her whole empire apart with paperwork she never saw coming. And she lost her crown. Her license. Her freedom, everything. Stick around. I'll tell you how it all went down. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, drop it in the comments. Because I read every single one. Let me back up a little. My name's Jake Harlan. 46. Born and raised in Willow Creek, Virginia. A little pocket of heaven where the Blue Ridge kisses the water. Grandpa left me this 2.5-acre slice of lakefront when he passed. The same land he bought in '82 with his Navy pension. I sank my whole retirement $200 grand buying the parcels around it. Another 30 large fixing the dock. Planting fish cribs. Turning the shoreline into something the wildlife department calls exemplary habitat. I know every boundary stake. Every easement clause. Every survey pin like I know the scar on my left knee from a warehouse fire in '09. This dock. These planks. The smell of cedar oil and honeysuckle. That's my church. Willow Creek used to be simple 48 homes. Working folks. Retirees. $200 dues for road patching and a playground nobody used. Then the McMansions started popping up. And with them came Karen Whitmore, 53. Real estate queen. Drives a pearl white Range Rover. Lives in the glass and granite monster at the top of the hill. She sells the lake lifestyle to doctors from Richmond and tech bros from D.C. And the only lakefront she actually has access to is mine. It started small. Bring couples out to my dock. Point at my Adirondack chairs like they came with the listing. Say things like, imagine Sunday brunch with this view. I'd walk over, coffee in hand, and say, ma'am, this is private property. She'd flash that frozen smile and go, oh, Jake. We've always had informal access, Mrs. Jenkins never minded. Mrs. Jenkins was the sweet widow who sold me the land. And she minded plenty. She just didn't have the energy to fight. Things escalated fast. Karen started scheduling lake orientation tours. Posting on the neighborhood app about shared waterfront heritage. Charging buyers an extra $3,500 for exclusive dock privileges that didn't exist. 3 families showed up at my door confused. Asking where the boat slips were. I realized this wasn't neighbor nonsense, this was fraud. And I was the unpaid brochure model. The breaking point came on a Saturday when I came back from the hardware store to find 20 strangers having a shrimp boil on my lawn. Kids cannonballing off my dock. Karen holding a clipboard like a cruise director. Telling a couple in linen. This is the crown jewel of Willow Creek, perfect for Instagram. The smell of Old Bay and entitlement made me want to puke. I stood there, grocery bags in hand, and said, Karen, you're trespassing. She laughed that tinkling, condescending laugh and said, don't be dramatic. Jake. Community means sharing. That night I printed every deed. Every plat. Every MLS listing where she'd lied about lake rights. And I started a war. 3 weeks later she formed the Waterfront Enhancement Committee, her. Plus 2 neighbors she'd promised discounted dues. Their first act. Schedule a welcome party for new resident Dr. Maya Patil on my dock. No permission asked. The Facebook invite had photos of my fish cribs with the caption, join us at our community lakefront. Comments poured in, finally using the dock we paid for. I decided to let the circus play out. Saturday. 2 o'clock. 30 cars on my grass. A bounce house inflating where my grandpa used to tie his John boat. Someone asking if they could move my tackle box for a cornhole tournament. Karen spots me on the porch. Heels clicking like gunfire. and says, Jake, come celebrate. I stand up slow, beer in one hand, phone recording in the other, and say, celebrate what fraud? Dr. Patel walks over, mortified, and goes, she told me the dock was included in the HOA. I asked 3 times. Karen tries to shush her, but Maya's already pulling up the listing on her phone. Exclusive private dock access verified. The music dies. Parents grab kids. Someone deflates the bounce house with a sad hiss. And Karen storms off yelling about unpermitted structures. Round 1, Jake. She went nuclear after that. Emergency HOA meeting. Agenda titled Equitable Lakefront Solutions. Proposing a $75,000 special assessment to acquire community water rights from me. The community center smelled like burnt coffee and panic. Karen had a PowerPoint slides of my dock labeled Proposed Asset. Stats about how lake access bumps values 20%. She brought in a slick property consultant named Greg who claimed historical use might create an implied easement. I waited till he finished, then stood up and said, Greg, Virginia law says implied easements need 20 years of open hostile use misses. Jenkins letting kids fish twice a summer doesn't count. Treasurer Lisa Chun raised her hand and dropped the bomb. Karen, you paid Greg's firm $8 grand from the emergency fund without board approval. The room flipped. Karen's face went the color of skim milk. Game. Set. But she wasn't done. She rented my lawn for the Willow Creek Lake Fest. Food trucks. Live band. $50 a head. Local news invited. I spent the morning canceling vendors, showing them the forged permits she'd signed with the HOA tax ID. By noon, 300 people were tailgating on my property. Karen rolling in on a golf cart wearing a mayor's sash. I walked out with a lawn chair, a thermos, and a live stream. Planted myself in front of the stage and said, folks, welcome to private property. Hope you brought refunds. The news anchor asked on camera, sir, is this event unauthorized? I held up the deed and said, every contract she signed is felony forgery. Watch the empire fall. Live at 6. The crowd turned on her like a bad tide. She screamed, I'll have your dock condemned. I smiled and said, please do. The county loves my permits. That's when my buddy Ryan, lawyer, old firehouse poker pal, called and said, sit down. Man. Turns out Karen had been collecting amenity fees for 3 years, $4 grand a house. 52 grand total. She listed my dock as an HOA asset on the insurance policy. Felony fraud. Premiums artificially low. Entire neighborhood 1 claim away from financial ruin. Ryan had already looped in the state insurance fraud unit and the FBI. We had 72 hours before the carrier voided coverage and mortgages got called. We built a war room in my living room. Whiteboards. Bank statements. Agent Torres from insurance fraud laying out a RICO map across 3 states. Karen had done this in Georgia and Kentucky. Vanished before the cuffs came out. Not this time. She smelled the heat and went full psycho. My boundary stakes disappeared overnight, professionally removed. No tool marks. Her 17-year-old son Brody took a crowbar to my fish cribs on TikTok Live. Caption, cleaning up HOA property. She filed fake harassment reports. Claimed I was stalking her Prius. Then came the anonymous notes on windshields. Snitches lose their homes. Classic intimidation. But every move just added charges. Witness tampering. Obstruction. Agent Torres texted Friday at dawn. Arrest moved up. Wiring money to the Caymans. Saturday. 6:05 a.m. I walked into her kitchen uninvited. Her emergency board vote to declare my land abandoned. 2 puppet board members looked up like deer in headlights. I slid the federal indictment across her marble island and said, 17 counts. Arrest and 31 coffee. She lunged with a letter opener, screaming, you ruined everything. I stepped aside, calm as a training burn, and said, you ruined families. Karen difference. Sirens in the distance. Getting louder. FBI kicked the door at 6:17. Cuffed her in fuzzy slippers while the news chopper circled overhead. Her last words before the van, I made this place valuable. Agent Torres just smiled and said, ma'am, you made it honest. 6 months later, I'm back on the dock at sunrise. Coffee tastes like freedom. Loons calling like they're laughing with me. Karen pled guilty, 4 years federal. Full restitution. License revoked in 14 states. We elected Lisa Chin president. Dues dropped to cover actual potholes. Insurance premiums fell 15% once the fraud was gone. Dr. Patel started a legal aid fund. Old man Frank runs a real neighborhood. Watch helps widows change smoke batteries. Not harass them. We throw a voluntary lake festival, now 500 people. Local bands. Scholarships for kids studying environmental law. My doc's still private. But every Saturday morning, any neighbor can borrow a rod. Learn to cast. No fees. No lies. Some folks say I was too hard on her. Others say I saved the whole damn neighborhood from bankruptcy. Me. I just wanted my grandpa's legacy back. Property isn't dirt and water, it's the stories you can still tell your grandkids without shame. So tell me in the comments, was I the hero or the villain? Ever had an HOA try to steal your slice of peace? Drop your war story below, I read them all. And if it's wild enough, I might just show up with coffee and a deed. Hit that subscribe if you believe one stubborn firefighter can still burn down a paper empire. See you on the water.